All right.
You perfect.
All right. So my first question is: has worship made you a better person?
Yes, worship has made me a better person.
How?
Worship has made me a better person because I'm a better father, a better husband. When I just think about now where I'm at in my life with my wife of being married for almost 8 years, I continue to, love her the way Christ loves the church. When I look at my kids, my two girls, they motivate me every day to do what I need to do as a father. They they actually drive me to worship every day because by me showing them at a young age, at 3 months, 6 months, now when I go downstairs in the morning, they are already bringing out the worship mat for us to worship every single morning. So that's just, for me to see that, it's just a blessing. I just, sometimes cry tears of joy just to see them actually getting the worship mat to worship every morning, every single morning before we go on our daily journey from school and work. So
Dope. See, we ready?
No.
Okay. Look, I'm telling you, it's simple. Okay. Look, check it out. It's so easy. Has worship made you a better person?
Yes, of course it has.
How?
As Pastor says all the time, worship consecrates the mind. It allows me to kind of clear my head, to have a one-on-one session with God, and to just hear clearly, what He's speaking to me. As I was just telling the guys in the room, Pastor prophesied to me a few years ago that you're a leader of men. And that kind of resonated with me because I see a lot of unfaithful men around me, so I have to kind of be the voice of reason at times. So that's kind of where I am. Worship has shaped me in a lot of ways, and that's just one of the ways that has.
Yeah. I feel yeah. Oh, first question: has worship made you a better person?
Yes, worship has made me a better person because from where I came from down in the Delta of Mississippi, it was a whole different environment, change for me. Whereas, traditional Baptist church, we did traditional things. Here, I found out that worship concentrates the mind. And so worship has been different for me, and I've been enjoying it.
So how has it made you a better person?
Like I say, I read my Bible more. I look forward to coming to church more on Wednesday nights, Sundays. all around, just it had made me a better person.
Cool. That's it. Has worship made you a better person?
Yeah, it's made me a calmer person and a more thoughtful person when it comes to how my actions affect others and how my presence affects other people. So yeah.
So how, like, in what aspects has it made you a better person?
With the kids that I teach, I've learned to be more patient with them. So we say that worship consecrates your mind. So it gives me the ability to center myself before I'm going into like my little war zone of school. So yeah, it gives me a lot of opportunities to think before I, speak or take action with my kids, especially.
Dope. That's it. All right. Simple question. Has worship made you a better person?
Yes.
How has it made you a better person?
It makes me really reflect, have more time with God and reflect on myself. It keeps me focused on the direction in which God speaks to me and tell me how he wants me to, the direction in which he wants me to go as a man for his leading my family. I think it actually helps me at home when my daughter's looking at me worship, right? So she know that her father is getting it, because it was a time when that wasn't the case. So it has helped me become a whole man, a whole father, a whole husband for us getting it right this time. So yeah, it's truly has helped me.
That's it. Has worship made you a better person?
I think it has. Yeah, I would say it has.
How?
In what way? It makes me. It has caused me to really reflect because I would say, let me go back a little bit. I have a quick temper, and I know y'all can't tell that. I mean, as mild-mannered and meek as I look, but I have a quick temper, and that's something that I prayed about throughout my lifetime. I mean, it stems from when I was a little kid. So I think worship has really, really modified it to that point where it wasn't out of control. But, here, oh man, I could really, really be set off. But now it deals with me here in my spirit rather than in my mind. And I know worship has that impact to make me stop thinking it and start reflecting in my spirit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
That's why. Has worship made you a better person?
Absolutely. Worship not only has made me a better person, but it has also made me a better man. It has consecrated my mind to where I can be able to treat my wife the way God want me to treat her. I can be the father that he has called me to be. And I'm able to think as a man should, to be able to go in and do positive things as it relates to my family and my wife.
So how has worship made you better? Just a little bit more on that.
Well, I think about how when I was growing up, how my father used to provide and how he used to treat my mother, and it was a good way. But my worship has consecrated my mind to where I know I can do better. I know I can be the man that he has called me to be, and to be able to provide in a much better way as worship has consecrated my mind.
That's it. That's all I need. Okay, so look who shows up late. We were supposed to shoot at 9 o'clock. Look who show up. Talking about some Nah, don't
What
try to
you
look
mean?
all regular.
What you
Nah,
mean?
bruh.
It's 10:20.
Nah, bruh.
We early.
Nah, you not early.
Early bird gets the word.
No, early bird does not get the word. Obviously not for you. You supposed to be here
Listen.
at 10 o'clock.
Listen. Yesterday
No,
we said,
you supposed to be here at 9.
Yes, no, we said 9:30.
No,
We said
I don't
9:30.
remember 9:30. You said 9.
We said 9:30.
We said 9 o'clock. Yeah, in that fridge. We said 9 o'clock. And you pull up at 10:20. Talking about you ready to shoot.
I'm here.
All right, bro.
Ready.
All right, bro.
We ready.
We got Sunny D. I got water.
I saw this lemonade. I don't know if I want some.
It's limited. It's still little. We got them little waters back there too.
To give context, Pastor wants us to go out and do like a man on the street thing, asking people around Memphis
'Cause I think
what does worship mean to you? Yeah.
Yeah,
So we just
so
go and
that's
ask
straight.
people, what does worship mean to you? And then we let them answer, and then that's it.
That's it.
He wants us to include people who ignore you or brush us off or react negatively. Like, so reacting negatively, do you feel like that means violence too? Like someone try to, what is someone
Man,
trying
no,
to?
I don't think nobody gonna try to put no head. If somebody try to put some heads on me about worship, then
Hey,
we got something extra powerful at that point.
okay, so before we go out, what do you think are some things that people are gonna say?
Man, I don't know what these folks gonna say, cause like a lot of people don't understand. Well, the way that we understand worship, a lot of people ain't gonna understand that way. So I don't expect nobody to. What'll shock me is if somebody gives us the definition that we have. Like if somebody,
Which is to,
like to lay prostrate and bow and kneel. Like if somebody says that to us, I think that'd be very different to me. Like actually, I'm gonna tell you what I really want to meet. I really want to meet a Muslim person and see what they say. Like somebody who's Muslim, and that's the form of worship that they practice. I really want to see like if we meet somebody like that who's not necessarily Christian and says it, that'll be very interesting to me. But I don't think anybody's really gonna say it. I'll be shocked if somebody said it.
when Pastor came to us with the idea, I definitely was kind of like worried about like whether or not we're gonna have enough content for it, whether or not it was gonna go the right direction. Because it's kind of like it has direction, but it's directionless also.
Yeah,
So it's like it's not like there's an end goal to it. It's more so just like you kind of left that up to us.
Yeah.
And I was kind of worried about that for a second, but then I was like, you know what, this is for God. You know,
Yeah.
God gonna work everything out to where, like, years and years ago, God already knew this was gonna happen. He already had these people set up in place for the ones who are gonna ask.
Right.
He already had their answer set already. So we're gonna be able to minister to the church through them and through us.
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful part about it.
Well, let's practice.
If you want to alternate,
I want to practice. Give me your best, like.
give me the best question.
Yeah, or like the best way to approach
I'm gonna
somebody.
walk up.
All right, hold on.
You ready to see how I walk up?
Yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can I ask you a quick question? Like, it's gonna be real quick. I promise you, it's just one question, and they're gonna be like, fine. You know what I'm saying? Cause they see this face. You can't deny this face. Then they're gonna be like, I'm like, so what does worship mean to you? And boom, they hit me with the response. Well, I pray, and I'm gonna be like,
What do you think? What do we respond when someone says like something? Do we just say thank you and then end it there?
yeah. I think that's because I think the goal is for us not to necessarily push the concept. I think it's for us to understand what other people's things are.
Okay.
So then we get a grasp of what they feel like it is.
Yeah.
One thing that I've learned is like you can't push somebody to something. We can't push something on anybody without knowing what they feel it is. Our main goal of going out and talking to people is to understand what people think about it. And then from there, we as a church, as a community trying to expose the message, can break it down more to people about, okay, this is what the world looks at it as. And that's not what it really is intended to be, or that's not the intended purpose behind it.
Yeah, I feel like that's also a testament to just kind of how like society is right now. Like a lot of times we don't like to like think about what other people are or how other people perceive things.
No, we don't
We
think
feel
about that.
like that like we're right about something, then we're just gonna push that no matter what and not sit and have a conversation.
Yeah, and not understand it. Because you can't change nobody's mind. Like, if you don't even know what they thinking, how you supposed to change somebody's mind? Like, that ain't how they go. So. Okay, so my question to you all is, what does worship mean to you? I know it's a complex question, but whatever you guys feel. I'm gonna have to pass. That's cool. Anybody know what worship means to them? It can be something simple.
Having faith in something.
That's good.
Or communicating with God.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, my question is, what does worship mean to you?
To me, worship means just praising in any way that's unique to you, and any way just to praise God in a way that's meaningful. I don't think there's a certain way to worship, just whatever like it means to you.
Gotcha. Dope. That's it. All right, my question is, what does worship mean to you?
Like it, like when you give your all to like Jesus or something,
Yeah, that's
or like when you praise Him and like stuff like this, like you come to see our history and stuff.
I feel you. What's up? That's it, bro. That's good. Appreciate you, bro. So go ahead. Go ahead and say it. What does worship?
You want me to tell you?
Just tell me what worship mean to you. What is worship?
To praise. That's what it means, to praise.
To praise.
To praise the Almighty.
Okay. Yeah. That's it. That's all I need to hear. Okay. My question is, what does worship mean to you?
What does worship mean to me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're a group of people get all together and worship Jesus when it put us here on earth.
Question now.
It is not a hard question. It's a real simple question. If you don't want to answer, you don't got to. You can say you don't want to.
No, I don't want to be on camera. No, okay. Felon, man.
Okay. All right. So my question is, what does worship mean to you?
Worship is a universal state of freedom, and it is actually the same thing as the Buddhists call nirvana, or the Hindu called Brahman, or that the Chinese call the Chi. Just a different name that Christians use to explain, presence or connection.
Cool. Appreciate that, man.
What up, bro? Y'all better get y'all hair taken off, bro.
My question is, what does worship mean to you?
Ooh, hold on. What does worship mean to you? Believing in God, accepting Jesus as our Savior.
Gotcha. Okay. Same for you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, my question for you is, what does worship mean to you?
God is real, Devin Hunt brothers. Worship is God as the forgiveness of the Christ of Jesus. And the Christ that came through the first Quran for the old chapters of the Holy Bible. But I'm Devin Hunt brothers. Yes.
Cool. So my question is, what does worship mean to you guys?
What does worship mean to me?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, you first.
Oh, I was waiting for your answer. I'd have to say worship means to give yourself over to something. Not just in your body, but mind and spirit as well.
Yeah.
And whatever you are giving your all to, right, is going to reflect that in your actions and your beliefs and how you treat other people and how you interact with other people.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But
I feel you.
Oh, me? To be honest, I don't have a very good, when I hear the word worship, I kind of have a negative view of it, only because, I grew up in the church, but the idea of, worshiping something kind of feels a little, like idolizing in a way.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of, worship being, in a, singing kind of celebratory way.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that reminds me of, half the singing, that kind of worship.
Yeah.
But also there's, a little thing in my head that's, there's kind of a negative to it too, or maybe
Right.
it could go a different way.
Okay, my question is, what does worship mean to you?
Giving yourself to God, just opening up your spirit, letting Him in to do what He does best.
Cool.
Let's work on you from the inside out.
That's it. That's all I need. Okay. You go ahead, flip the camera. You show it again. Okay. So my question is, what does worship mean to you?
Worship to me means a personal relationship with Jesus, expressing yourself and allowing Him to express Himself through you.
Great. Thank you. That's all we needed.
All right, you're.
Okay.
You got something crazy.
No, it's not. No, it's nothing crazy. I promise you, nothing crazy. I promise you. It's actually a wholesome
I saw y'all
question.
video before, right? Y'all did a video before?
I don't think so.
Somebody something crazy.
No,
don't
that
lie
ain't
to
us.
me.
No, that ain't us. I promise you, that ain't us. That ain't us. We ain't asking nobody nothing crazy. I promise you, we down here on Billboard. We ain't asking nothing crazy. My question is, what does worship mean to you?
Praising God.
Yeah, that's all you gotta say. Is this praising God?
Yeah, praising God.
For real? Okay.
In your own way.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I needed. I thought I almost hit somebody, and I'd be like, "Oh Lord." Okay, so we just wrapped up talking to people on the street. Very interesting, very interesting. But Tony, we had a little different experience. Me and Tony were we were leaving the civil rights area, right? Yeah, heading up to Bill. And we were going down one of the back streets to get there. And as we're going down one of the back streets, we see this old man, like this older man, heading out these cars with this door open. So, and we kept hearing like this singing or whatever. So we walk up to him and like, we ask him the question or whatever. My question is, what does worship mean to you?
What it mean to me?
Yes, sir.
It mean worshiping God. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. And he hands us the card, and it's for this church. And I ask him the question, and we go through, and he's like, yeah, y'all should go ahead and come on. So me, I'm ready to walk up the street and be like, nah, let's keep going. And Tony's like, nah, let's go. So Tony pushes me in there before I can even say, nah, bro, I'm good. And so we go in there, and we walk into the sanctuary. And from the moment we stepped in the sanctuary, I'll say the experience was very different than us being in like any other type of church. And I think Tony, I think you can explain that a little bit better than I can about what it was.
Well, when we walked in, it was very like, it wasn't a traditional black church type feel to it.
Yeah. Very small too.
It was very small. It was probably like the size of the Friendship Hall that we have at our church, and it was just very. Yeah, I would guess like I don't want to say Muslim decor, but like a lot of it felt like they were like practicing a religion that wasn't Christianity. Walking in, I can say that I did feel something.
Yeah.
At the moment, I didn't know what it was, but it felt different, and it felt good though. Like it didn't make me feel alarmed or worried. It kind of made me feel calm. So after I looked at the card, and after we kind of sat there for about 15 minutes, I went ahead and got up and went down to go worship. And
I want to ask you about that. Like, what made you be bold like that? Was it like a spirit in the atmosphere, or was it just like you was like, you know what, just and just it was just something like you didn't even think about it, you just went?
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I thought about it for a second, because one of the things that I always want to be courteous to other churches is, even though if the church doesn't like practice the same type of true worship we practice, I don't ever want to make anyone else feel uncomfortable, because I feel like that is just kind of out of respect to like someone else.
Yeah.
You know. But with that being said, though, like when I know that I can do it, I will do it.
Yeah.
And it was one of these moments here where no one had to tell me that I could do it, but I just felt like I could do it. Okay, so when I tell you about like that calmness I felt in the spirit, that's what I felt there. The same feeling I have at our church. And it was kind of like, okay, I go do it. So once I like felt that calmness and reassurance that everything would be okay, without anyone having like to verbally tell me, I was like, I'm gonna go do it. Well, the worst they can do is kick us out.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie, I thought Tony was getting up to go to the bathroom. I'm not even gonna cap to you. And I seen this man walk to the altar. I said, oh, he done got bold.
So I laid down prostrate, and I started worshiping. And let me tell y'all, as soon as I laid down, I thought someone was gonna tap my shoulder and say,
yeah,
excuse me, sir, can you please stand up? I thought they were gonna say that, or they'd be like, what are you doing? Because again, two random black guys that they probably never seen before the church. It's a small church, so I'm assuming that everyone know everybody. So they two random black guys with cameras.
We got hoodies on.
Like we weren't dressed up in the same attire that they were dressed up in. So I can see how they were maybe an alarm by it. So they see me go to lay down, they're like, what's going on? But no, that didn't happen. I laid down, and then I felt someone cover me, and I was like, "What?"
Hey, look. So I was at the back. So I didn't go down there with Tony, because I was so caught up in the moment of just like the church, and just because they were doing things like similar to the way we were doing. People were speaking in tongues. It was like a real powerful experience just being in there. And I usually don't feel that, especially from churches that we're in, and especially like small churches like that, because they're usually so traditional when they're small like that. And so we were just, I was caught up in the moment. And so Tony goes down there, and I seen the lady like that was waving the flag. As soon as she saw Tony, she dropped the flag, and I'm thinking, oh, she finna go pick my mans up. I said, damn, we finna get pulled out. And she runs like to the back and just goes to get a sheet and goes down there and covers him and like stays there for a second. And it almost brought me to tears seeing that, because I feel like people, I don't really know, like, I don't even know what the religion was. Like, I don't want to say it wasn't Christianity, and I don't want to say it was, but it was a very different type of Christianity. Almost like how people come to our church and say, how people be like, y'all are very different. Like, y'all don't practice Christianity the way we do. and we were there, and we had to leave before we had to go out and get people.
Well, yeah, one thing is that they were singing for a while.
Yeah, they was jamming.
They were on the same song for like 20 minutes.
My boy said Yahweh, and then the band would break down. I'm like, okay, we finna get to the sermon. He'd be like, Yahweh, 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 and I'm just like, oh, okay. I said, all right. And I'm not no person to knock the spirit. I'm just like, okay.
The time was ticking.
Yeah, time was ticking. We had to go.
And honestly, I felt like the God was like, everything like today, and we talked about this before, I think, in the at the beginning of it, the video. But everything that was going to happen today, it happened today for a reason.
You're right.
And that, I feel like that's a big testament to it. Because I just, like I told you, when I felt the calmness, I went down and laid down, and then, Lord behold, someone comes and covers me. And I was like, oh, so this means that we can make the safe assumption. Now, again, we didn't get to talk to a lot of the church members because the service was going on. But what this means, though, is we can make the safe assumption that I was not the first person to go and do that there.
Right, to lay prostrate.
And the fact
especially
that
they knew the cover.
Yeah, they knew the cover. That's the part I was like, okay. Covering, that this is something they knew to do. And I looked around, they had other covers too. Like, it wasn't just like someone had like their personal blanket there. Oh my goodness.
No, this was a cover. Like, they was prepped. Like, you know how when the women get down there, they was prepped. Like, they was ready for it. So
we didn't get to like sit there through the whole service. We got there kind of in the middle of it, I would say. I don't know if they worshiped before we got there.
Maybe.
I don't even know if that's what they call, if they even call that worship. Those are some things that I think that we should have conversations about. Like when you go to a church and a church practice what we believe is true worship, but then they don't call that worship. Like we talked about the other way a lot, where when a church calls something worship but it's not worship,
Yeah.
But we really don't talk about when a church practices worship but doesn't call it worship.
Almost like kids, where like how sometimes kids do things and they don't know what it's called, they just naturally do it.
Yeah.
Like the Spirit ushers them to do it.
So like I go to Life Church occasionally, and when I'm there, they have a time where you can talk, connect, and worship with God through 3 different ways. One way, well, 4 actually. One way is by taking communion. Another way is by praying with one of their prayer warriors at the back of this church, or sit in your seats and like just as a choir or their praise ministry team, they sing, sitting in your seats and praising God, or going down to the altar that they have in front of the church and kneeling, bowing, or laying prostrate. And it's like, in those instances, are they practicing true worship? Does God get the same gratification from people worshiping even when they don't know that is what worship. He wants, or that is what worship is?
Yeah. Like if they're doing it unknowingly, and it's just like the Spirit is leading them to do it, does God still appreciate that worship? And I put air quotes around it, not saying that it's not true, but because they don't know what it is, so they're kind of just doing it to do it.
Like we have, because of our pastor, we've been able to study what worship is and have like an extensive knowledge of what worship is and the reason why we should worship and the act of true worship and all that stuff. But for people who don't know that but still partake in that same actions at their churches or however they do it, like, do they still get that same? Does God get that same gratification?
Yeah, I got you.
Which is, I think, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting idea, like, to think about.
I would like to believe that the children of our church, like the babies, the ones who really just can't comprehend a lot, like Daily and all of them, right? Those ones who can't comprehend a lot that's going on, but they get that we go down and worship, and they just start doing it out of habit. Like, is God still pleased, or is he getting that gratification from them doing that, even though they don't understand the whole concept behind it?
I feel what you're saying. Because
in that case, then I guess that makes sense. Oh, phone call.
It's a difficult question to wonder if God still gets that gratification from that if they're not calling it that. I don't know.
But like with the whole worship's greatest values, that it consecrates the mind, does someone still get that effect from it without knowing that that's what worship's greatest value is?
See, I don't think that's what it is, though. See, I don't think that happens. Because if you don't know what worship is, I don't think you can consecrate it. Because it's not a go-to tool for you at that point. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, it's not really a go-to tool for you. It's not like this consecrates my mind, so I'm going to do this. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so, yeah, go ahead.
To push back on that one a little bit, let's say working out is equating to going to church.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to the gym, you get on all these different type of machines, you're doing all your exercises, right? And we're gonna say all the exercises are the same thing as like praying, worshiping, singing, and all that stuff, right? Listening to the word, all of that. Now, when you're working on certain equipment, sometimes you really don't know what all is working, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but you're still working out, you're still doing it. But and like equating that to kind of like with worship, right, and praying. So like you don't know all the stuff that is you're gonna get benefit from praying and worshiping and going to church all the time and tithing and all that stuff. But it still happens when, like, if you're working out, it still happens.
Right.
Like you're not gonna, just because you don't know that, oh, this thing is working out this area up here. Like, you know it can work out this, but you may not know it's working out back here. That doesn't mean that you're not gonna get the benefit from it working out
back there.
So like when you're worshiping, if you don't know that it consecrates your mind, does it still consecrate your mind?
Like, I think you have to know this worship. That's what I'm saying. I feel like you got to know that this is what worship is. Even if you don't know the understanding of it consecrates the mind, I think you got to know that this is a form of true worship. Like, this is the act of true worship. And then from there, I think that triggers the effects. Does that make sense? Like, once you understand the concept, I feel like that opens up the effects of what it could truly be. Because I think if you don't understand what it is, you will never get the full benefits of it. It's like, for like the working out example, right? Like, if I'm just doing push-ups just to do them, because I know it's like, oh, it's good to do push-ups, right? But then I don't know this is getting strength, then I feel like once you or you don't, like, what I'm trying to say, like, if you're just planking, like, you know, planking is a cool thing to do, but you don't know it's exercise. But once you understand it's an exercise,
so once you realize it's an exercise, and once you realize it's something that's benefiting something, then you get into the habit of doing it,
right?
Because you know the purpose of it,
right? That's what I'm saying. And I feel like that's what worship is if you know like, if you're just, I don't want to say people are just laying, it's almost like fasting. When you fast, right? If I'm just not eating from 12 to 8, I'm not necessarily fasting. Like the guy said, I might just be dieting. Even though that could be counted as fasting, I could just be dieting.
I see.
And so if I'm just going to the altar laying out, then I'm just, I could just be laying there. You know what I mean? The question is, how can worship help our men and boys man up?
Well, I think the way that worship can help our men and boys man up is because the biggest benefit to worship is that it concentrates the mind. So it helps you to focus. And so that's what we need. I mean, as a young man and men, you can get distracted. And when you're distracted, you are not thinking properly. So when you are focused on God, and worship will help you to focus, to have that center, to center your mind on God, and then everything else will fall in line. So first, you seeking Him first. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. All things shall be added. So when our men do that, everything else will come online.
Wow, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So my question is, how can worship help our men and boys man up?
Worship can help our men and boys man up by introducing them to a thought process that they have not had before. It allows them to be the men of God that they were called to be before everything that has turmoil in their life. It allows them to be able to be an example for young boys and the ones that's coming up as infants if they start worship now.
My question is, how can worship help our men and boys man up?
Well, I definitely think that worship teaches you discipline. You know, it requires that you submit to God. You know, the origin of the word, like obeisance, laying prostrate, sounds a lot like obedience. And so I really believe that that's key, knowing how to submit. And I can imagine it's very difficult for men. It's difficult for women, but it's important. And I think it can change your life.
Cool. That's all I need. So my question is, how can worship help our men and boys man up?
Worship is to a man and a boy what a kitchen is to a real cook. The more you go in there, the more you get. The more you come and be taught, the more you will internalize.
That's good. That's all I needed. Thank you. My question is, how can worship help our men and boys man up?
Oh my goodness, that's such an awesome question. Well, I think if our men are strong enough to believe in worship, that's the first step for manning up, is to believe in worship. If they're willing to worship, then we're on the right track, because so many of them won't worship. They think it's, I guess, beneath them to lay prostrate, to blow kisses to God. So when I see a man, whether old or young, my respect for them grows when I know that they're willing to worship.
That's good. That's all I needed. Autumn, my question is, how can worship help our men and boys man up?
Well, worship consecrates the mind, and if men don't have a consecrated mind, then girls aren't going to want to be around them, because who wants to be around someone who has a bad attitude?
That's tough. My question is, how can worship help our men and boys man up?
Well, worship can help men and boys man up by, like Autumn said, it helps consecrate the mind, and who wants to be around someone who has a bad attitude? Like, if you're just around somebody and they just being mean for no reason and rude for no reason, then you can obviously tell that something's wrong with them. And if they have an attitude when you try to ask what's wrong, then maybe give them some time and leave it alone. But worship can help them because, well, you're men, so man up.
Yeah, okay. Okay, my question is, how can worship help our men and boys man up?
So I think worship can help our men and boys man up by, you know how they say, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. I think it's one of those things, like boys need some structure, and with a consecrated mind, that is the beginning step to structure.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. See? Question to you is, how can worship help our men and boys man up?
To me, worship helps consecrate the mind. And once a man or a boy lay down prostrate to worship, it consecrates the mind. Not just the mind. Pastor always tell us the genitalia area, whatever area they may be struggling in within their body. If they lay prostrate, worship helps that. And being in tune with God will also guide you and help you through the worship.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. Thank you. So my question is, how can worship help our men and boys man up?
Worship is an experience that connects you directly with God, and God is the only one that He's the best teacher of, like, in life. So if He can directly tell you exactly what you need to do to become a better man, and then the leadership around this church alone of men that worship and everything that is done for them, it shows you and teaches the boys and men how to be better men and how to grow into great men.
I want to know, what do you feel like is the importance of black men worshiping?
Ooh, that's a tough question right there. Man, if you just look at the news, bro, like, man, people ain't got their mind right. You know what I mean? Like, people don't have a peace about themselves. You know what I mean? Like, people are so unsettled now. Like, look at even the way that we move in. Man, you got people killing themselves, bro, killing their wives, killing their things, because their minds ain't all the way there. You know what I'm saying? And as a black man, I feel like it's important because you already got all them issues going on in the world. You know what I mean? You already got to deal with, I got to watch the police on my back. I got to worry about taking care of my family. I got to worry about just getting beat down every day for being a black man.
Like, we really don't have an opportunity to have, like, I guess, a peace of mind.
Yeah, you don't.
Like, it's always something
It's always something always on your mind.
Yeah.
And then what you see is eventually men snap. Like, those black men are gonna snap eventually, and it might not be necessarily they go kill themselves or go kill somebody else, but they stop taking care of their families, or they stop doing this, or they stop that because they don't have that peace anymore, and they're trying so hard to find that peace, or they've gotten to the point where they can't even get that peace back, and they just snap. Can't go back.
So you're thinking that worship is something that the whole, idea of worship, consecrating your mind, is something that black men need. Something to have a consecrated mind.
You need the consecrated mind.
I agree with that. I agree with that a lot. For me, I know a lot of people in my life who didn't have strong black men. Mm-hmm. I see how that affects people. I see how that affects kids. I see how that affects women. I see how that affects a lot of aspects that are of our life.
Yeah.
And I see the people, and I see, like, how their lives have been affected by that. So I agree with you. I feel like that having a consecrated mind as a black man is very crucial in order to, like, take up the responsibilities that we hold in our communities, you know,
Yeah.
with the people around us, being that strong, firm leader that everyone can seek comfort under, you know?
Yeah.
I think about my mom a lot, and I think about how much different her life would have been if she would have had a strong black male, I would say strong black father in her life, you know?
Yeah.
I think about a lot of my family members and like how much better their life would be if they had that strong black male in their life. What is the importance to you that you are a worshiper?
For me, the importance is just.
No covering.
Oh my bad. Yeah. The importance, I would say, is like having that centering thing, knowing that like if life is going whatever, that's the one moment where it's just like, okay, you can calm down and just you can recenter yourself about what's going on. So it's no more if you getting pulled left, right, left, whatever. Because you know, like in our lives, we're always moving. We're in school. We're working. We're doing this. We're trying to do films. We're trying to do whatever it may be. And so we're always boom, 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 moving. And you never have that moment just to be with God. And that moment right there, just to be with Him, it makes you feel like, okay, everything else, it'll work out all the way it needs to. So even if you're in the worst situation, even if I'm in a terrible situation or anything like that, I know, okay, this moment with God, it's a reassuring moment that I have a peace with Him, that me and Him are aligned with each other. And if I'm not in control of what's going on, He's in control ultimately of what's going on. So I think it's important for me because if I don't worship, everything else fails around me. Because if I don't worship, then I don't bring a covering to my mom like I need to. You feel what I'm saying? And I'm what my mom has. Or like if I don't worship, then my sister is losing the benefits of what I'm doing. So I feel like my worship, everybody is dependent upon my worship.
And I that's what I was gonna say too. Like I feel like I have the responsibility, I guess I can say, or I feel like a lot of people around me in my life come to me for their leadership, for comfort, for love, care, advice, like anything, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there are a lot of people who are in my life now that come for me for those things. And I feel like there are going to be a lot of more people down the road who also look to me for those things. And for me, that's a lot of times what worship is like. Because when I worship, like I know that I'm doing something that's going to have a reverberating effect in everyone else's life around me who's connected to me. And sometimes I feel like there's like this weight on me that like I'm supposed to do everything in my power to make sure all the things that are supposed to happen. And I can't do that if there's no worship.
Yeah.
I can't do that if I'm not humbly coming to God, giving Him the glory for everything that has happened in my life. I can't do that if I'm not coming down, laying prostrate, consecrating my mind with the altar. I know I'm not able to do that stuff. So for me, it's like, if I want to be able to accomplish those things, if I want to be able to continue being the comforter, the love, care, support, leadership, if I want to continue doing those things, then it's going to have to start with worship.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of times a lot of people don't do that. They don't realize that in order to affect someone else's life, it has to start with you.
Yeah.
Making sure that you're on the right path, making sure that you're good.
Is that we're not connected to God. We're not worshiping. We're not at this centered peace with God, and in turn, we're not at a centered peace with ourselves. So then everything else in our lives are just falling apart. As much as we're trying to hold it up ourselves or like keep it from falling apart, it's falling down, and it's gonna keep falling down until that happens. You know what I'm saying? Until men realize that we have to find that peace with Him and within ourselves, then everything else will start to flow the way it needs to. And I think.
What do you think? And I guess we kind of touched on this a little bit, but like just to give a specific direction for this question, what do you think is the importance that Black men worship for Black women?
I think the importance is because a lot of people are always jump to the, well, you got to take care of your wife, and let's keep it frank. I mean, some of our Black men aren't into women.
That's just true.
Some of them aren't into. Some of them are gay. Some of them are whatever. Some of them don't. You know what I mean? They're not looking for a woman. They're not looking for a girlfriend. And However, the black woman is something essential to the black man's life. You got a mother, you got a daughter, you might have a daughter. You know what I'm saying? You might have a daughter, you might have a
Yeah, that's why I didn't like preface the question with saying like what is the importance of a black man worshiping for his wife, or
Yeah.
for like it's just black women in general.
And yeah, black women are the backbone of the community. Like, whether you know it or not, like, you're gonna need a black woman in your life. You know what I mean? Even if that's not your lover, you're gonna need a black woman in your life. And you can't support what she needs if you're not together yourself. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the importance of black men worshiping her, because it's just all connected, bro. You know what I mean? It's a big circle of everything. Like, if the black man is good, then the black woman is good. In turn, the black children are good. And it's just to keep circle, because the children cycle into that same cycle. They're gonna become the women. They're gonna become the men. And if they never learn, like, if a black child is brought up to not be a strong black man, if that son is never brought up to be a strong black man, that circle keeps getting broken. And you're never gonna be able to fully, you know, have that energy, that synergy that we need as the black community. You know what I mean? And
What do you feel like is an unspoken, I don't want to call it a perk, but like an unspoken benefit to worshiping? Like pastors always talk about, it consecrates our mind. That's what God craves. What are some other things that you've realized that through your worship has benefited you?
I create a lot better. So I know if we're worshiping, it has creative benefits to me, because I'm at a place where I'm not creating from a place of anger or turmoil. Even if the project that I'm working on is something angry, I'm not at a place of anger. I'm not creating out of anger. I'm not working fast. I'm working in a time period where it's like, okay, take your time. Where I work in excellence. I don't feel like I'm working just to get something done or to get payment. I'm working because this is going to be a reflection of what my life is, and that's what worship does. It forces you to be to want to be better, period. You know what I mean? And so it makes me want to be a better boyfriend, a better father, I'm not a father, but you know what I mean? Like, when I have kids, when I have kids.
Wait, I saw some diapers.
Yeah, nah. But when I want to be, like, when I'm ready to be a father, I'll be a better father, because that's what I want to be when I get up from the altar. I want to be better.
It has allowed me to be able to navigate some very difficult situations, difficult relationships, difficult, I guess just, it has allowed me to be able to jump over any hurdle I need to jump over with poise and with calculated movements, I guess. So, like, a lot of times I have this feeling where it feels like life is moving really fast. Like, I know it's not moving fast, but it feels like it's moving fast.
It feels like it's moving fast.
I feel like there's a lot going on, and it feels like that I'm not handling it all correctly.
Yeah.
And when those moments happen, I'm like, all right, cool, I gotta go worship, because I know worshiping, sitting down there, like, I have to stop myself, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it isn't like I can, like, be on my phone while worshiping, or I can be doing this and that while worshiping. Like, I have to stop, lay down at the altar, take deep breaths, and focus on God. Now, with that, though, it has allowed me to, like I said, be able to navigate a lot of situations with calculated movements. And it has also allowed me to start self-reflecting about a lot of things that I'm doing and how I'm handling things. One thing that I really push and really believe in is that, like, the best person to have, this is kind of a weird thing, but, like, I feel like when parents want to be good parents, great parents are parents that self-reflect, and parents who aren't afraid to say that they were wrong, they did the wrong thing, right? Or they acted a certain way that they shouldn't have. When it comes to worshiping, that helps me. That helps me, like, develop those skills now. Like, I see it when I'm dealing with my family. I see it when I'm dealing with my brother. I see it with you, my other friends, my girlfriend, everything. I see myself sitting there like, okay, how can I have done better? What could I have done differently? And then implementing those things. Yeah. And it takes a discipline to be able to do that. And I know I did not get that discipline through anything else but worship. Yeah. Like, it wasn't something my mom and dad could teach me how to do. It wasn't something that I could have learned from watching. Like, it was something that I had to have learned through worship. Being able to worship and do all that stuff. Because for me, it's like you go down to the altar, you lay down, you focus on God. And during that focusing on God, you kind of focus on, like, the stuff that you did, the stuff that you know he's kind of upset. It was almost like when the parents yelling at you, or like you're not yelling at you. When the parents like saying like, "Hey, you did this and you shouldn't have done this, and you did this and you shouldn't have done this, but I love you, and it's okay, and I'm here for you, even though you did these things, right?" That's what I kind of go through sometimes when I'm worshiping.
Yeah.
Is to give that reassurance that I'm okay, that God's okay with everything that I'm doing. That like I'm not going to go to hell, I guess, for all this stuff.
Yeah.
So at that moment, I realized this is how life should work, though. Life should work with you do things, and if you find out that it was something you're supposed to do, or that you realize it was not a good idea or whatever, or you should have handled it better, go back, fix yourself, and approach it again.
Yeah.
Another thing that worship has been able to like give me, I guess, is this sense of reassurance that God has everything planned out, and that everything that has happened in my life happened for a reason.
Right.
And there have been some really traumatic things that have happened for me, happened to people around me, and it's hard sometimes to like sit there and be like, "Oh, God did this for a reason," or "This is part of God's plan." Because you're sitting there, you're like, "Why would God do this?"
Right.
Like that if he's supposed to be a loving God, he's supposed to be a miraculous God, a merciful God, then why would he go out and do these things that have put me in these places, right? And have put me in these positions that I don't like being in, that I feel is completely unfair to be in.
Right.
And like growing up, I see that with friends, family. I saw it with myself sometimes. It was just like, why? And then, again, worship was the only way that I was able to push through that.
Yeah.
Like if I would have went to church and just like, you know, praise the Lord and all that stuff,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have had the same effect. Like being able to worship and being able to sit there and like talk with God and listen to God, like it just gave me that sense of reassurance that everything's okay. It may not seem okay right now. It's okay to not be okay sometimes.
Yeah.
But God's always going to be there. I can always lean back on Him.
Right.
And you got to have that faith. You got to have that faith that everything's going to be okay. So that was a couple of things that I got from like me worshiping. I'm trying to think. There was one more thing I want to talk about before we wrap it up. What was your most? What was the most surprising thing that happened today?
Ooh, I didn't expect to go to a church service.
Me either.
Miles was not expecting to go sit at church. That was new. And also just learning about the thing that stuck out to me the most about going to church was we don't have the card on us, but when it was saying going back to the roots of Christianity.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the word they used was. It'll be on the card, but going back to those roots, I always think about, and we had this conversation in school about like slavery and what it did to black people's religion and everything, and it always has set with me about like the power. I don't think people really understand the power of what we believe in. You know what I mean? Like being there at that church and talking about going back to the roots and everything, like you can see the history and how it can be traced back to our roots as black people. And sometimes it's irritating when people are like, "Oh, yeah, that's the white man's religion," and when it's, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily that. Like our religion can be traced back to that. You know what I mean? Our religion can be traced back to believing in one God and believing in, there was multiple religions in Africa. There was thousands of religions. So it could always be, we could find traces back to that. And just the idea of thinking about the power of Christianity. I was saying that all that to say about the power of what we believe in. And I always think about how during slavery, Christianity was used as a tool of holding us down and of making us believe in the slave mentality and breaking us and all of that. And that's what Christianity and slavery, that's what Christianity did to us during slavery. It was designed to like keep us in slavery. You feel what I mean? Or people used it to keep us in slavery. It wasn't designed for that, but people used that to keep us in slavery. But the crazy thing is us sitting here talking, that's the same thing that's going to free the black man or free black people in general, is the power of our worship, the power of us believing in what we believe in. You know what I mean? The power of our belief. That same religion that was used to engulf and trap us is going to be the same thing that frees us.